I
So,
realized
what languages do you speak?
French, which is my first one, Dutch, which is the second language of Belgium, English and Spanish.
English and Spanish. W- Why do you know four different languages?
Well, French because that's the language like I've been raised into.
Right.
Dutch because so I'm from Belgium. I'm born in Belgium, which is a country that has three national languages, so French, Dutch, and German. So because the two main languages of the country are French and Dutch, German is like just a small part. You have to learn the other language that you do not speak at home at school. So I'm born in the south part of the country where we speak French. So at school, very early, I think like when you are, well, very early, when you are like 10 years old, you start learning Dutch, and like the Dutch people start learning French. And then later on, you have English because English is like the international language right now. So you have to be able to express yourself. And then at third, when I was like 15, so that would be your junior year in high school. I had the choice between German and Spanish, and because I'm French speaker, Spanish is way easier. So I decided to learn Spanish, and that's it.
Why does historically why does Belgium have three national languages?
So because Belgium is not, I was about to say it's not a real country, but Belgium has been Belgium has been created. It's kind of an artificial construction to make French people and Napoleon back in the day to avoid that Napoleon would try to expand to other countries. They create Belgium. They put a king that was like from Germany but married to an England woman. Like it's a whole construction to make sure basically that Napoleon will not go over to expand his country like France. And so they just took a piece of land that was like south of like Netherlands and like north of France, and they kind of created it there.
What was
Yeah.
it before Belgium? Was it a part of France?
The south, no, it was part of Netherlands actually. So there were also like some people complaining about like not being very there were minorities in all the countries they
Uh-huh.
were part of. So when they wanted to be independent, they were like, yeah, that is actually cool because if they are independent and we create a whole new country, then France cannot expand. So that is actually perfect. Like they can be.
What?
That's a whole like history.
Dude, now I
There's
just
a
want to go
I feel
Google it all.
yeah, Napoleon in general, like it's just like a name that I've heard. Obviously, you know
Right.
about
There's a
him
movie
as a.
coming about
There's a
it.
movie with Joaquin Phoenix,
Mhm.
and
It looks so
I
good.
was just like Ridley Scott directed, and I was just like Sunday morning, like just googling and trying to like.
I wonder if
Figure
they're
out
going to talk about how they formed Belgium to stop him.
I hope so.
Me too.
Well, I mean, it was more a consequence. Like they were more like,
Oh.
oh yeah, we will accept the independence of Belgium because that will serve actually the
Got
fact
you.
that we don't want Napoleon to
Got you.
extend. So it's a whole thing.
Okay. So you grew up in Belgium.
I did.
What age were you when you left Belgium?
24.
Okay. 24 years of your life in Belgium.
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell me about living life in Belgium? Because I've only ever lived life here in America.
I mean, as a black person, it's very interesting. So I was commenting with Corey earlier in the car that I say that I'm Belgian because that's where I come from. My passport is Belgian. I traveled from Brussels to come here, but my parents are from DRC Congo, so the Democratic Republic of Congo.
Mm-hmm.
And I consider that I'm half half, so I'm
Okay.
half there, half Belgian. And in Belgium, when you are black, you are automatically not seen as a Belgian person. You are not European. Like they know you are from Africa, anyways.
Hmm.
So that set me up in a different like perspective because I was kind of always not really fitting. You know, I was there, but like I was kind of the stranger, even though like I don't have an accent when I speak French. Like I'm fine, like I understand everything. But I was always like the only black kid, the only black girl, like all the time. So it's a little interesting. But other than that, like the country is fine. I mean, you have the same things that you have here, more or less. Like nothing, nothing really crazy to say about it if you do not ask me a question.
Right.
You know?
Except they have 3 languages.
Yeah. Yes.
It's interesting. I think the thing that struck me the most was just thinking that, like, because to me, like, I guess it's just interesting to think that, and it's sad, but like that you were so aware of the fact of like feeling like you might be an other in your home country. And I think of, and again, just we share from our limited perspective, which is amazing to have a different perspective. But in my head, somehow I think that that's a very uniquely like U.S. thing.
Of what?
Of like not, I mean, not racism, obviously, but like but like that is, it's like that's. I guess I'm just struck. Maybe this is naive, but feels sad that you would grow up in a different country that's not in the U.S., which has obviously the history of slavery and the Civil War and XYZ. But like even in Europe or in Belgium, that was something that you felt like you were. It's prejudice, like that's again that exists. It's sad, but like I would say, I guess that exists everywhere.
Right.
And that, again, I feel very naive just saying it, but like as you were talking, I was just like, oh my gosh, like that sucks.
It's just interesting because the perspective is different. In United States it's funny that like it's funny to me that American is like kind of a nationality when you know that everyone come from somewhere else,
Right.
except
the melting pot.
the people like the Native American that
Mhm.
you don't see that much. In Belgium and in Europe in general is a little bit different because European people are originally white. Period. So everything that is not white is originally not European. And so the problem is now, even if you would be a fourth generation or like a 20th generation African originally born in Belgium, just because of your your color skin, you are still not considered as a European. You know what I mean? It's like, yeah, but you're not an original one. So when people ask me, if I go to France, for example, and people ask me, oh, where are you from? If I say, oh, I'm from Belgium, they will be like, oh, but where are you actually from?
Dang.
Expecting me to say,
Yeah.
oh, whatever country from Africa I am from, you know? Yeah.
And it was all, I feel like it's also interesting to think about, like, not only that prejudice and that kind of thing, but you said that you were the only black kid, the only black girl, like the only one. And there were no other black kids that like you grew up with or anything?
No, so my parents decided to live in a different city
Okay.
than the one where all the Congolese people were usually. Like people, like most of the black people stay in the capital, like Brussels. I guess because it's easy. I'm not sure. And my parents decided to step out of it and like start something completely different and new. So where I grew up, like it was only white, and then my parents obviously wanted us to have the best education, and that is pretty similar with here. Usually, the best schools and the best places are the ones that are where all the white people are, and so that's where we went to school. And so yeah, like maybe like I graduated from a high school in 2009. That's a long time ago. And
Not that long ago.
and
Corey graduated from high school in 1987, so you're fine.
Oh, wow. Anyways,
That's not true, Lisa. Don't listen to him.
And we were 4 black kids
Okay.
out of probably 300 kids. So yeah, that's not a lot.
You said your parents went to start something new. Like that's why they didn't go to the capital. What were they doing?
Well, so when my dad became a pastor, because my dad
PK,
was a
baby,
pastor, he took the leadership of a church that was in like another like province, like another state. It's not a state, it's a province. Because the thing is also like there is a lot of like black African originated churches in Brussels, and so it would just be one other African church. And my dad just got an opportunity to do something different, and he just like take the lead of a different church that was white actually.
So they went there, and your parents took over a church.
Yeah.
So you grew up in church.
Yes.
Did you always play worship music
Yes.
or sing?
Why that response? Why the
Because it was actually being in the worship was not really a choice.
Hmm.
So in Belgium, to learn, and it's not like here when you are in school and you have like your sports and like music program attached to your school. In Belgium, your school is just academics like math, science, whatever. And then aside from that, you have to go somewhere else to learn like music or sports. And my dad wanted us to, we are four, like I have three siblings, um, wanted us all to learn to play keys because my dad was actually back in the days a choir director. He songs, he plays guitar. And so he always has been into music and he wanted us to be into music. So he put us at the music school when we were little. So we were going to school and then going to the music school as well. And when we were old enough to not go to Sunday school anymore, so like when you reach what, 12, maybe 13,
Mm-hmm.
it was like, okay, now you'll play at church. And I
Wow.
played at church.
Did you stop like formal training at that point, or did you continue
No,
like your
the formal training was from when I was 8 until when I was 17. It was a solid 10 years of classic piano.
Interesting. Okay. So you live there for 20, and I feel like there's a gajillion things that we could dig into about your past. Do we want to stay there? Do we want to move up in the timeline?
Let's move up.
Okay.
Unless do you have something else you want to kind of?
Oh, we're good.
All right.
So what happens when you're 24?
Right.
Well, then we have to backtrack a little bit
Okay.
because
You asked the wrong question.
just to give it's just to go over work. So I got graduated at 22.
Mm-hmm.
I started working for that consulting company in engineering.
Mm-hmm.
They do railway, and the particularity of consulting is just like in that setup. I mean, it's just like basically they send you in different projects in different companies, and then when the company doesn't need you, they just get rid of you. So it allows
This sounds so violent.
No, but like it's like, when a project, like if they have to restructure or they don't have resources, it's easier to fire the consultant than to fire an employee. Sure. You know what I mean? So they like to have some consultant here and there so that they are sure that like if they don't have budget anymore, like those are the first one to go and they don't have to like fire employees, which was good for me because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do and I get bored very fast. So having the opportunity to change different project often without looking bad, like, oh my God, she's not stable, she's changing all the time. Well, the consultant give you like the opportunity to just switch. Like the project was over. It's not my fault.
When you say like you get bored quickly, like what is that? Like what do you?
I need to learn all the time, and so depending of what it is, my learning curve can be long or not, and so I learn first. So I'm super excited about the project. Then I have like that cruise phase where like I like have it all together and like I can like do everything and like I enjoy it. But then when I've seen it all, I'm like, okay, yeah, that's dumb. Let's do something else.
Well, then consulting is a perfect job for you.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to go to Spain, and that company had project in Spain. So I worked 2.5 years in Belgium, and then I switched to a project in Spain. So that was when I was 24. And I left for the Basque country in Spain, north of Spain. And I stayed there for 2.5 years before I came here.
So you left Belgium after graduating, you worked in Belgium for 2.5 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then you went to Spain and you stayed in Spain for 2.5 years?
Exactly.
Okay. Your experience of being like the outsider and feeling that way because of the color of your skin and all that, was it the same in Spain as it was in Belgium?
I was a little worse. But people were nicer though. But like I definitely stuck out. Wait.
That's right.
You're right. Yeah,
okay, stood out more. because so in that part of Spain, specifically, the I guess I would have had a different experience if I was in Madrid, like the capital, because I have been there a few times and like I really loved it. And then also Spain, which I actually loved, so I have no problem with the people there. But they are like they have a very strong cultural identity,
Mm-hmm.
like the Basque countries. They're all like Basque, and like their culture is really important for them, and they have their own language, and like it's
Hmm.
very different. And so first of all, I sticked out because I was like the French speaker coming like out of nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
But then I was black, and then I am an engineer, but like in the engineering field, you don't have a lot of female neither.
Mm-hmm.
So I was
Mm.
black and a female
Right.
and coming from another country. So that was like like the
Right.
super combo of like, yeah, being super different. And also like I arrived there, I was 24, but the people that were working with me were already like 32,
Yeah.
33. So I was also the youngest. Like I've been the youngest at my job for at least until like I reached 25 or 26 years old. So yeah.
So I'm curious. So when I was 24, I moved from Toledo to Pittsburgh, and I moved 3 hours away,
Yeah.
and I had to fully restart. And the amount of stress and anxiety I was under
Yes.
moving to 3 hours away was insane. How was it for you moving to an entirely different country?
Well, first, the thing is, it's only 2.5 hours from my parents. Like Spain was only 2.5 hour driving, flying from my parents. So not that far. So I feel you.
Mhm.
And then it's crazy because like you are in a new country, different language, different administration. Like you have to think about like the taxes, getting an apartment. You do not know nobody there. I think that for the first 6 months of that year, I questioned why I actually decided to leave until like I got to a more comfortable spot. But yeah, it's crazy.
And then you moved to the U.S. and went like what 8-hour flight?
Yes, that is 8 hour flight. Well, 8 hour to New York, and then it's 1 hour to here. So
Right. So, what made you? Why did you move from? Did you move directly from like Spain to the U.S. or you went back to Belgium?
I went back to Belgium for 1 month, the time
Okay.
for my visa and everything, like all
Mhm.
the paperwork to be done. And then I came here for work. So it's the same company. Actually, they offered me to come here. Like that was absolutely not on my to-do list to come to live in the US. I knew that I wanted to visit the US because like everyone has to go to New York once in their life, I guess.
Yeah, that's a
Like
great
that's
city.
what
Yeah.
people tells us
Right.
in Europe, you know. So if you have the opportunity, just go there. But I was not actually attracted to live in the US. I was just like, yeah, I mean it's cool to visit and that's it. But I feel like that was definitely like a God-led move more than a me move. Like Spain, I wanted to go to Spain, and I think that God allows it. Like it was fine. But the US is definitely like God wanted me to come here, and I just felt it. Like I was fine in Spain. I could have stayed there, or I could have gone back in Belgium. So that was like a face type of move.